Yeah, what's up guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Gavin, and today me and James are going to be talking about the effects of drinking alcohol during adolescence. Particularly in Australia, this is a pretty widespread issue, with just under 50% of surveyed Year 11 students in Australia reporting to the Australia and New Zealand Journal of Public Health that they'd consumed more than 5 alcoholic drinks in the last 2 weeks. Obviously this is an important issue, and today we'll be exploring it both in terms of physical and psychological damage it can do.
The question Gavin and I have chosen to investigate aims to discuss both physical and physiological consequences of drinking. Our question is, how does alcohol's effect on developing brains affect affect, behavior, and cognition in adolescence?
So first we're just going to talk about what alcohol does while it's in the body. After being digested into the bloodstream, alcohol acts as a nervous system depressant. What this means is that it slows down the connections between neurons by blocking the chemical signals neurons give to each other. Alcohol affects primarily the central nervous system made up of the spinal cord and the brain. Alcohol's effect on the brain seems to be most severe in the prefrontal cortex, responsible for some emotions.
Long-term structural problems of drinking. Alcohol use can kill brain cells, slowing down the brain, therefore dumbing people down. Some areas don't recover brain speed and can be permanently damaged. The size of the hippocampus is significantly smaller in people who drank in their adolescence compared to those who didn't, resulting in more likely dementia and other memory issues. Myelination is important for the maturation of the prefrontal cortex during late-stage adolescence, but research shows that alcohol exposure during this period can significantly interfere with the process. Alcohol can kill myelin in parts of the brain which stunts brain development. As the prefrontal cortex is one of the last parts of the brain to mature, it has the potential to be stunted dramatically.
There are other health risks alcohol carries that are especially bad for teenagers. For example, it is reported by the Archives of Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine that people who drink before the age of 14 are between 4 and 12 times more likely to develop alcohol dependency later in their adult lives, compared to those who wait until they are 21 to drink. As will be discussed later, alcohol is proven to be detrimental to education, and so teenagers who drink heavily are more likely to struggle to excel in their education and to find and hold jobs. Added to the increased risk of liver and other cancers, young people who drink alcohol are more likely to suffer throughout their lives with depression and other mental disorders as a result of alcohol's effect not only on their brain, but on their lives.
Effects in adolescence. Affect. Damage to the frontal lobe can lead to personality issues. The frontal lobes are involved in personality, motor function, problem-solving, language, social behavior, and much more. The lobes are the most widespread part of the brain, purpose-wise, and damaging it can have major impacts in several different ways. An example of how damage in the frontal lobes is the case of Phineas Gage. Phineas suffered a large iron rod through his head, destroying most of his left frontal lobe, affecting his personality. People close to him said that he was no longer Gage after his accident. Before his accident, he was polite and caring. Afterwards, he became selfish and aggressive. The damage alcohol can cause to the limbic system can have a major impact on endorphin and dopamine releases, which can cause less happiness and more mental health issues in the future.
As previously mentioned, alcohol increases the risk of depression in the long term, but alcohol can also cause disorders such as anxiety and depression shortly after use begins. Other emotional problems alcohol contributes to are changes in personality. Heavy alcohol use can leave teens feeling sad, angry, or frustrated more than they used to. These problems can lead to adolescents developing issues with friends and family members and a general negative affect. These are mostly caused by alcohol's damage to the limbic system, which regulates some emotions, and the frontal lobe, which facilitates higher order functions and personality. These issues can also stem from problems caused by damage to other psychological functions.
Alcohol addiction can form at young ages as the brain is still developing and it is easy to form dependencies. The social issues it can cause can create change in attitude, usually making individuals sadder and more likely to get mental illnesses long term, as endorphin or dopamine releases are harder to get due to a lower supply. This can cause social isolation and depression.
Adolescent drinkers often very quickly develop trouble learning. This trouble is mostly to do with memory, and is a result of the damage alcohol does to the hippocampus, a structure in the limbic system which plays a large part in learning and memory. Adolescent drinkers often have underdeveloped and small hippocampi later in life. Teenage drinkers are also more prone to blackouts while drunk, where they are incapable of making new memories. Teen drinkers also underestimate danger when making decisions. Because alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, teen drinkers impair communication in the brain, slowing down brain communication. In all, most of the cognitive defects find their roots in the damage to the hippocampus, but damage to the frontal lobe and other brain areas play a part as well.
Effects on cognition include reduced memory capacity and harder to focus and concentrate. This makes learning harder as individuals cannot perform to the best of their abilities. Alcohol prohibits the lobes both temporarily and permanently, both of which can lower language and motor reflex skills, which make verbal and written communication harder.
Adolescent drinkers often very quickly develop trouble learning. This trouble is mostly to do with memory, and is a result of the damage alcohol does to the hippocampus, a structure in the limbic system which plays a large part in learning and memory. Adolescent drinkers often have underdeveloped and small hippocampi later in life. Teenage drinkers are also more prone to blackouts while drunk, where they are incapable of making new memories. Teen drinkers also underestimate danger when making decisions. Because alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, teen drinkers impair communication in the brain, slowing down brain communication. In all, most of the cognitive defects find their roots in the damage to the hippocampus, but damage to the frontal lobe and other brain areas play a part as well.
Summary. Adolescent drinking has a large negative impact on the developing mind, and can stunt brain growth and development, cause mental health issues, social isolation, increased chance of alcohol addiction, blackouts which will diminish short and long-term memory.
Oh yeah, now we're just gonna do some thank yous now, boys. So first off, we're gonna thank Big Dog Samuel Crockett for his wonderful teaching, and then we also gonna thank Ryan Chowdhury and the Church of the Jesus Christ at Latter-day Saints for their inspiration in my life, and then Eric Doggers for his wonderful psychological theories, and then Finley Reed's head, it's so odd, Michael Lopez D's pill because it's so glorious, and finally Toby's fifth concussion, lest we forget.
Our citations include Neurocognitive Functioning of Adolescents, Effects of Protracted Alcohol Use, an investigation carried out by Sandra A. Brennan, published in 2000. A New York Times article published in 2006 entitled The Grim Neurology of Teenage Drinking by Katie Butler. 2 publications from the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism entitled Cognition and Alcohol, published in 2001, and Alcohol in the Adolescent Brain, published in 2004. How Alcohol Works, an article published by Craig Fudenrich for How Stuff Works in 2017. Consequences of Underage Drinking, published by the Johns Hopkins Center for Alcohol Marketing and Youth in 2007, and the Long-Term Effects of Adolescent Alcohol Exposure, published by the Dana Foundation